All right, welcome back to Vibe Coding. So we're going to dive in again, have a little bit of fun, have a little bit of chill vibe, and enjoy just playing around with the code world of the future. I really mean that. I really think that what we're doing now is kind of conceptual coding, and I think this will be the future as these models get stronger and stronger. Last time in Level 2 Vibe Coding, we talked about separating concerns. It was just a little hint of how to kind of make the system separate a little bit better so that when it adds new things, the AI knows where to put it, keeps it structured, and doesn't make a mess of it. When you talk to an AI about coding something, imagine the prompt you're giving to it. Imagine walking up to a stranger that has the intelligence of an AI. Sitting at the bus stop, you walk up to the stranger and say, I want you to write me an application that this and 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 this. And he's gonna look at you and go, okay, here's your application. And in the end, you're going to have an application that actually does those things, imagining that it got it right the first time through, everything's good. You didn't describe that, oh, I'm going to ask you for 10 more changes after this, and then 10 more after that, and then 10 more after that. And it's going to turn into a huge system. So I want you to make sure that it's organized in a way that you're not pulling your hair out and tripping over yourself every time you make a change. And so once it's an application that can do this and this and this and this and this, and you say, oh, you know what else it could do? It could do that and that and that and that and that. And you ask it and you say, hey, AI, can you also add one of these that's? Well, the AI has to go into this big, huge system that's all cobbled together because it didn't have any expectation of needing to separate it. You didn't tell it also separate it and keep it clean, of course. And it's going to try to use a scalpel in the middle of a whole bunch of this and this and this and this. And it will invariably bump something else. So it might make your change. It might not even get that quite right because there's so many other concerns in this one system that's cobbled together. You ask an AI, do this. It says, good, that's all I know about. You haven't given me any other context. Here you go, I've done this. And then you go back to it and say, hey, I have this, because it doesn't even know that it wrote that the first time. Can you make this do that? And of course, what it says is, well, yeah, if I like cut here and cut there, then I can make this do that. There you go, here it is back. And you just start getting into this circular reference problem that it gets bigger and bigger and bigger on the inside because it's not being asked to do it a little bit more gracefully. So in Vibe Coding Level 2, all we learned was separation of concerns, this idea of being able to put some things where they belong. So if you have an object, it should only do things that are related to it. This time, we're going to learn one more step of that kind of thing. There's only a couple of these from a standard engineering practice that will really, really help. There's quite a few that would help. A very sophisticated engineer will be very successful at vibe coding or concept coding in the future because they will understand these core principles. They will know when the AI is doing something that's really in the wrong direction or is going to trip up later. So being a strong engineer will still be a high value. The question is, if you're just getting started on your journey and you're vibe coding to get there, how do you become a stronger engineer? How do you learn some of these practices? Well, that's what this is all about. That's all I'm trying to hand off is a couple of these core principles and how to use them in the new world. Last time, separation of concerns. This time, we're going to add one more to that. Okay, so let me describe what we're going to do. Very simply, last time we wrote this simple little toy application that took in a YouTube channel ID and showed you the channel page. I've since quickly added a video detail page to that, so the channel page would have had a list of all the videos for that channel. Now you can click on one of those tiles and it'll take you to the video detail page. Very similar to looking at a video on YouTube. The page you're probably on right now, in fact. So it's kind of that structure. Has a description, has the video that can be played, has some other panels that have kind of summary information in them. That's what we're playing in. So we already have this as a starting point. And today what we're going to add, which honestly, I find this stuff fascinating. This is the most fun, and it's about to get self-referential. So hold on for a second. We're going to add AI to this application. And I understand we're co-partnering with AI to build this. So that's one thing, but what we're actually going to build is some AI inside of it. So we want to add a couple features that can call an LLM and give us back summary of the video and a bunch of other things. And the neat thing about this, and this is one of the neat things about AI in general when you're developing, is it has a lot of opportunities. So once you put AI into the system and know, oh, it's super simple to ask for new stuff, you'll come up with idea after idea after idea. And that's the neat part. So we're going to just put in the beginning stub of this, ask for a couple things, build a couple simple features, and I bet you have some ideas by the end of it thinking, oh, you know what would be cool is if they would do this and this. That's all. We're just showing you the road here. I know that this is going to probably excite you and put you on the road to, I need to add AI to my application. Even if it doesn't really need it, I can do some cool things with it if I ever come up with ideas. All right, so let's dive in and take a look at the application and what it's going to take, what new feature or what new policy from old engineering we're going to learn that should keep things a little bit cleaner, a little bit straighter going forward as we progress into a more advanced system. Okay, as I mentioned in the opening, I have a few vibe code videos that kind of get you started and introduce you to some of the tools. But just in case you haven't seen those, I wanted to show you a couple of the tools very briefly. We're going to use Cursor, which is my AI code editor. And the other thing that I use is called Super Whisper. And this is just a way for me to speak to the computer. And you'll see a waveform at the top. This is just my way of not having to type. All right. So I open Cursor down here and I'm going to open the previous application that we called YT Vibes. So this is our YT Vibes application. And let me search for a channel. This is kind of where we were last time. So we're going to go into one of these videos. AI summary, this is one of the ones that we're going to write. So the AI summary, this is just holder text right now. This is the feature that we're going to put in. It's going to take the description from the video as well as the transcript and then give us back a summary of what's going on in this video, what was talked about, whatever we might ask for. And that's the cool stuff. All right. So now you understand what application we're dealing with. Let's dive into the code just for a second to orient you. All right, without needing to know much, again, my advice is you don't need to know much about this stuff. The more you know, if you're a good engineer, you've been doing it for a lot of years, you're going to be very successful at this concept coding or vibe coding going forward because all of your engineering constructs, kind of these best practices that we all talk about, those are fundamentally useful still, but you need to give them to the AI. One of the things we did last time is we created these Cursor rules files. And these rule files simply say, this is the separation of concerns. This is the one we wrote last time that said, hey, each file should represent one discrete unit of work. Obvious kind of language for any engineer that's ever heard this before. We learned this in the level 2 video. Go check it out if you are new to this and are interested in it. But it's the one that tells the LLM, hey, when you're creating new stuff or you're refactoring, try to consider these rules and move them into the right places. And so what we end up with is a pretty strong separation of concerns here. This is the channel page that we were looking at where we saw all the videos. The page itself looks pretty clean. It's only got a little bit on it. It's got the channel info, which is the banner at the top, and then a collection of videos below it, which is that grid. This channel videos is a feature in the channel page. So you'll see channel videos here. And if you go into that component, this is where the concerns for each one of those videos is. Now, I would say this is too much. Y'all might have heard me last time say this. Everything that we're seeing in here feels like it should be dropping more video tile kind of stuff. This feels like it's drawing the whole video tile here. Honestly, if we were on that first video still, I don't have time right now to do this. I would go back and say, hold up, this channel video thing feels like it has the channel video tile or just video tile. Shouldn't that be extracted as a general component so that it can be used anywhere? I advise doing that. So if your code starts to look like this is the smell that you're looking for. You don't have to know what it's doing to just ask the LLM, does this feel separated to you? And it actually will go ahead and change it. It'll clean it up. This is where we're starting. What we're about to add is some way to be able to talk to AI. And I'm going to give it some information about how we're going to talk to AI. So I'm not going to do what I did last time, which is try to cold shot it and see if it can get it right and then correct it. We're going to try to tell it some of the concerns that we have. And one of the concerns I have is I want to add an OpenAI to begin with, but I don't want to stop there. I want to be able to compare it against other models. So I want to be able to use Gemini, or I might use DeepSeek, or I might use who knows what. That means that there is some transformation in the background of service providers. These things all have different interface points. So they talk different languages basically when they come back. So any application that is written, I was just to tell this application, hey, can you add OpenAI? I want to make some LLM calls to get some data back. It will kind of, as we talked about before, put that very deeply into our application. And the moment I come back and go, oh, that's really awesome. It works great. I want to do that with Gemini. It'll go, oh, okay. And you'll see this kind of code where it just starts splitting and splitting and splitting. Oh, if Gemini, I'll do these. If OpenAI, I'll do these. It doesn't know to separate. It doesn't know that you might want to add more and more, that it needs to be extensible. It thinks if it fills that request, it's finished. That's the most important thing to understand today is what you tell it to do, it's trying to do. That's its whole goal. So you need to tell it the things that will make it successful in the future because it's not yet thinking about these things. By the way, let me jump in here for a second and say, what does the future for this stuff look like? Because I don't know when you're watching this. Hopefully you're watching this the day I release it because that's fantastically exciting for me. Thank you if you are. But if you're watching this a little bit in the future, your mileage is definitely going to be different than what we're seeing today. I expect these models, not to mention Cursor and the agent systems and the rules behind them, to get dramatically better just in the next 6 weeks, much less the next 6 months. And by next year this time, I would expect half of what I'm saying to have very little value, except for one thing. I expect that these general engineering practices will be very useful going forward for quite some time. I don't think that this is short-term advice. Now, saying that, I mean, let's be honest. What do we mean by short-term when we're talking about AI? We've all seen the hockey stick chart that's kind of showing the growth of AI and how much smarter it's getting, how quickly, and that's some kind of exponential push. So the long term may be 2 or 3 years. It may be 10 years. Not really sure. My expectation, though, would be all of these things that I'm telling you will get baked into both the tools and the models themselves that are used. So we may end up using more bespoke models. I know Cursor is already doing some of that. To service this information coming from the LLMs in a specific way that befits engineering, not just code. So saying, write me Tetris in one file, great, it's neat that it can do that. Managing that in the future becomes a big headache. What you want is something that says, write me a cleanly written version of Tetris. You don't really care what it looks like, but you do know the day you come back in and go, you know, every block that's red, I want it to kind of throb. Okay, that might be a hard ask when all of the colors and everything else are kind of nested together in one file. That's all. So I think these models will get much stronger in the future. Look for that, expect that, but I think what you're learning today, these kind of concepts, will still be fundamentally important when you lay them down. When you look at a model and say, no, I want to make sure that you're separating this stuff into subcomponents. I don't want anything to have more than one concern. That will pay off. When you start talking about state management, which we'll talk about in a future video, and, oh no, I want you to manage state in this way or that way. Don't do it this way. It will definitely pay off. So don't worry, as you advance in this new version of engineering, whatever that really might look like, vibe coding engineering, the more sophisticated you become in being able to help your pair programmer, your co-programmer, which is the AI, the more successful you will be and the less frustrated, of course, you'll be. So I just wanted to jump in and say what we're doing here will not be the same in a year, much less 2 years, anything that, but it will fundamentally be important in some way. I still expect that we will not get to the point until there's like whatever you might determine AGI is, or whatever you feel that kind of term means, until these systems are so fundamentally smart that they understand this is a human. Humans have the tendency to want to change things later. They're asking for something. What I'm going to give them is something that can be changed very easily and successfully later. Let me not just go with the single shot response, which I could absolutely give them in less than 2 seconds. Let me spend 30 seconds to give them one that I can manage. That's probably what's going to happen to these models going forward, that they'll start to understand basically the entity that's asking for it. That's all. All right, let's dive back in and really next move into making some of these changes, or at least the request. All we want to do is we want to tell the AI, hey, listen, I need to add AI to this, but I don't want it to be part of the system. I want you to make sure that when I ask for different providers of AI, that they fit in just fine. One of the things that we know is different AIs like Gemini and OpenAI don't have the same model names, so we don't want those model names inside of our system deeply as an indicator of what you're trying to do. So that is one that I will call out, and I think that'll help it understand, oh, if I have to extrapolate the model name, then maybe there's other things I need to extrapolate. So it should be a pretty easy request. All right, AI, you've been doing great. You've been killing it. I'm very excited to see the changes that you've put in. Everything really that we've asked for up to this point is working. I think we're in a good check-in point. We're about to move into something a little bit more complicated. Now, understand, I'm going to ask you for some things that we're going to try to get right today, but I highly expect that I'm going to want changes and additions and alterations to in the future. So I need it to be kind of clean. I need you to separate this out quite nicely. I need to start using OpenAI. I'm going to want to submit some questions or a prompt to OpenAI and get the response and put it on the screen. We're going to use OpenAI, but at the same time, I really expect that the features that we're going to use here will best be suited by other models, by other manufacturers. So it's very likely I'll use Gemini later or add DeepSeek or some other systems. I don't know about those. We don't need to do anything about that right now. But I think that means that we don't want OpenAI to be a deep part of our system. We just want to be able to interface and use it. And then when we need to move to a different manufacturer that has a different system, it should be really easy to do. In fact, I expect that to be hot-swappable from the UI at any moment, that I can use a different provider or a different model or something like that. And I know that these model names are different. So I don't want something inside of our code that's saying this prompt should go to GPT-4o. Because if I then change to Gemini, I don't think that's going to work. So with all of that, can you try to set up a system that feels like a logical way to solve this problem? And then like maybe build just a simple plan on how to attack this problem? Okay, so as you can see, this is a very big prompt, and I am going to give this to the 3-7 thinking model. So let's take a look and see what that does. Okay, so here we are. Very simply, I'm going to scroll up to the top of the window here where it gave us the architectural plan that it was going to enact. It says it's going to create a provider interface, some implementations, an AI service layer, some API routes, and then some UI components. The idea that it's creating some abstract interface and some kind of provider implementation for each provider, which is great. That's kind of perfect. That's what we want to see. It should make it very easy. Hopefully by the end of this video, we'll see something running, and I'll just say, add Gemini, and we'll see it running with Gemini. By the way, every single time I've crossed my fingers on one of these videos trying to hope that the system would do something either bad or good the way I've seen it before, it has failed miserably. So hang on, in just a few minutes you'll realize I'll be kind of crying a little bit about having crossed fingers. And now it's saying the user needs to replace your OpenAPI key here in this file. So that's the one thing I'm going to do, and I'll go find a key. In fact, I'm going to come down into the OpenAI application, create a new key. I'm going to put that into the application. Let's head back over there. Okay, last point here. It did a very good job of summarizing what it added. It did say to add a new provider in the future, you just need to create a new implementation, register it with the AI service, and the UI will automatically show it as an option. So it should be that easy to create new ones. If it's created a system that's that easy to create new ones and there's no other wiring or plumbing to change, we'll see, then it should be very easy for it to create them in the future when we say just add Gemini. Again, we'll see. In any case, we now have AI. Let's go add an AI feature. I've come back to the video page so that you can see what we're going to do first. All we're going to ask for is this AI summary tab. We want to take the information from the description and the information from the transcript, and we want to pass both of those into the AI so that we can get an AI summary out of it. All right, back in cursor. All right, AI, I am ready. Are you ready? I'm ready. I think it's time to add our very first AI feature. It looks like you have OpenAI in place, and I want to put a prompt together that I can put both the video description and the video transcript together and create a meaningful summary from what was said in the video. Adding these prompts, I want to make sure these prompts are in a single place, centrally located, and kind of global to the system, because these prompts are going to be very important, and I'm going to change them a lot, and I will be changing them by hand, so make them easy to find. I don't know how you're managing level of model, but there's like GPT-4o mini, and then GPT-4o, and then the O3 mini thinking model. So I'm thinking it's like small, medium, large, or simple, normal, advanced. I'd like to think that that's how these model definitions are, so that when we're doing a prompt, I can say, oh, I need to send this to the small model. And regardless of the provider that we use in the future, it will map to the small model if it has one. And just send it. Here we go. Okay, that took a little while. I know it didn't for you, but it did a lot of spinning to get to this. And it has created this services prompts index file, which is this file we're looking at here. So we have the concept of this prompt would be the video summary prompt. But very cool, you can see it's writing a template, you're an expert content summarizer. Task is create a meaningful summary of YouTube video based on the description and transcript. Here's the description, here's the transcript. So this is great. Let's take a look at what it looks like when running. Let's start our server, reload the screen. Let's let the summary run. Okay, so this is the summary as seen through both captions and the description. That's good, so it worked. First, let's clean this prompt up just a bit to get something back that looks a little cleaner, because this doesn't look very clean. Hey, I've sent you an image of our AI summary at this point. It looks pretty nasty. Either update the prompt so that we get a better organized message back, or update the styling of our markdown viewer that we're using in this description area or in this AI view area. It just does not look very good. And maybe you're not even using a markdown viewer in this place, but I think you are. So just take a look and make it look much, much better, please. Okay, interestingly, very cool. First off, let me show you. It did pull up our rule for theming and styling, which is awesome. That's great to see. I don't see that very often. Neat to see it pull that up. And the second thing that it did is it's actually updating the prompt to try to make it a little bit cleaner and organized a little bit better, which is nice. And now it's going through and working on the renderer itself. None of this matters, but it's worth seeing that it saw all of those as potentials when it probably just could have worked on the theme. And we wouldn't have had quite the same kind of impact on the change. All right, let's see what changes they made. Okay, that looks a lot cleaner, right? It looks a little bit more like a document. That's fine. It certainly gives me the idea of what was mostly spoken about. Let's try something quick. Okay, chat, everything's looking pretty good. I want you to add another tab, just like AI summary, but I kind of want to make it AI outline. And here's what I want. I want you to create an outline, if you can. We're going to try this just once to see if you can get it right, from all of the data that you've got. So essentially from the description, as well as the transcript information, and maybe the transcript information that has time codes on it. So maybe we don't want just the transcript information or the caption information turned into transcript information. Maybe we want the actual caption information. Maybe that's actually the trick here. We don't even need the description. So maybe just use closed captioning. Sorry, going backwards on you. And what we want is going to be a brand new prompt, a new tab. What we want is we want to use the captions to find the most exciting parts of the video and create a hyperlinked outline to those places. And what will that mean? Something like we need the time code and the description of the exciting part that they're talking about in a given moment. So it's kind of a different version of chapters that we're deriving actually from the closed captioning itself. Give that a shot. Okay, I don't have a lot of hope that this will work. It doesn't really matter if it works or doesn't. We'll move on to the Gemini quest last. Super simple. I'm just going to ask it to try to add Gemini and allow me to switch between them. If it can't do it, then it didn't quite work. All right, so here we are. Interestingly, instead of putting it next to the AI summary, it put it next to the AI outline, which is cool. So let's pull our summary again, make sure it didn't disrupt that. That's worth understanding. Nope, that still comes through nice and quick. Looks very good. Okay, here we go. One shot. I mean, it did something. Okay, here's an outline of the most exciting and important parts of the video. AI takes over everything. Alexa Plus, GPT-4.5 incoming, and more insane AI news. All right, Claude 3.7's impact, AI language and communication, coding capabilities for DeepSeek, Alibaba, Grok's unhinged voice mode. Let's see if these jumps work.
But there are also other modes, Kevin. There is conspiracy mode, which dives into conspiracies. Yeah. There is the Grok in quotes doc mode.
Oh yeah, see, that did it for me, Gavin.
I mean, you got to watch these guys, by the way. Thanks for taking part in this video, guys. So this worked. That was astonishing. We still have some styling things to work on and other things, but this is really astonishing. I would ask it to give me the time code. It does describe why it's important or why it feels like it's important, raises interesting points about the future of AI to AI interaction and potential implications for human understanding. So this is kind of fascinating. Why it discovered these things or what it's giving us, I don't know, but I am thrilled. So one last one, super fast. I'm really going to shoot at this once and see what it does. All I want is to be able to switch between Gemini and OpenAI. I will go get my Gemini API key. Please create a place in my environment local for me to put it. And I want you to write the parts to use Gemini as our AI solution for the two things that we're doing with AI right now. And then we'll come back together and we'll show our audience how awesome we are and how fast we can build these new tools. You ready for this? Aw, no personality in that. All right, I'll be right back. All right, it swears it's done. It did work for a while, again, of course. But, you know, I can't blame it. I like the vibe code too. Let's take a look. This is the last thing. Here we go. All right, let's reload this. All right, here we are. Once again, let's go AI outline. Let's generate an outline. We'll go AI summary, drum roll. Oh, this is OpenAI, so hopefully this works. And we'll just play with this one. We just want to see one work. Come on. We're going Gemini. You ready? Let's see. This video delves into the latest advancements. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Look at that. Look at that. No problem. Vibe coder level 2.1.1 something. I don't know. Great. Let's get out of here. Okay, so that was great, right? I mean, I know there's a lot of little twisty bits, unfortunately, and had you been standing in front of the screen a couple times, you probably would have screamed at it. I think that's part of vibe coding. I think part of vibe coding is being able to get your vibes out every now and then, man. It worked. It worked very well. I did not have to do much adjustment. I know felt like there was a little bit of back and forth, but compared to old vibe coding, this actually was kind of pain-free to some degree. There's still a lot of things to clean up here. The number one takeaway that I would advise is you need to give context to the LLM of your future intentions. I mean, there's no better way to describe it than to say the model has no idea that what you're asking for is not perfect. That's really the root of everything. You have to tell it you're going to continue to edit on this and that you want things to stay very clean and separated and not collide with one another where possible. Every now and then you might have to go in and make adjustments by hand or really identify that adjustments still need to be made and tell it to do it. It'll do it all. You notice I didn't type a thing here. So I think we're in a good place. This was interesting to see. We did add a new AI provider in, no problem at all. Being able to do that with multiple providers was really neat. We added a second AI feature in no time. So very cool. I absolutely advise you, if you have access to API keys, use one or two in a little application. It will give you all kinds of crazy ideas that you might go, I don't know, take this image off of this and take the description from this, throw it at the AI and tell me something unique about these two things or something like that, or create a different image for me. There's a lot of fun that can be had once you realize, oh, I have programmatic capabilities using this AI rather than it's just a chat bot in some window that I have to go talk to, or even better, just in a code editor, I can just talk to it. That's all I know. In any case, this was a fun one. It was a long one. I'm sorry about that. I wanted to keep it a little shorter. I hope to cut it down, so you may have gotten a couple jump cuts in here. Sorry about that. I really don't want these to be arduous to drag through because I think the finding that we get to, the first one being separate concerns, the second one being tell it that you need things cleanly separated and controlled and kind of identified for the future so that you can make changes easily, that will make all the difference. So, all right, that's it for this time. Thanks for coming along on the ride for this one, and I'll see you in the next one.